You're going.
Is it going?
Yes.
Is anybody on?
Not that I saw, honey. Somebody's texting me.
Yeah, they're not gonna watch, but they're gonna text.
They're not gonna watch, but they're gonna text.
Okay, we are back. There's something on the floor already. Don't ask me what. I have no idea what that even is. It's just, I don't know. We're back. Another Wednesday. We thought this week we'd do something really simple because it's hot outside and a lot of people don't want to spend a lot of time in the kitchen. But continuing with our series on garden fresh vegetables and things that you probably have a ton of running out your ears right now, like not necessarily red peppers, but zucchini, yellow squash. These are our fresh onions from our garden.
That's what
that might
is.
be what they came off of. Right? Yeah.
That's what that is.
So, now, you're going to want to bookmark this episode and visit this many, many times. Because the first thing that we're going to show you, well, not the first thing. The first thing is, I've got these shorts on, and this week, they're like a seersucker material. Like a, I don't know, maybe white and like blue or something. So they probably go real good with the shirt.
Yeah.
I've got these every week, and I show my shorts. We are going to make a homemade red sauce. This is something that you probably ought to put somewhere where you can remember it. Because this is so good. You don't need to buy the jarred stuff.
No.
You can just make this yourself. In these tomatoes, there's tomatoes. People try to eat healthier nowadays. And they try and not do the preservatives, not do this and that, and good. Good on you. I'm throwing my knife up. That's like my thumbs up knife. This is one way that you can do this. It's extremely cheap. I mean, it's a can of tomatoes, a little wine, a couple other little things. For less than probably you can buy a jar of sauce for.
Yeah. You
can make it and put in it what you want, what you like, and then you know what's in it.
Well, I think it's just, it's impressive to me when I go to buy jarred sauce, because we'll buy it. Not that we don't.
Right.
But, I mean, it can be really expensive. I mean, you know, you got your standard brands, but then you have these other brands that are wanting $5, $6 a jar. You can easily make a $5, $6 jar thing of sauce yourself for a fraction.
For a couple bucks.
Yeah, not maybe a buck.
Right, yeah, for like a buck.
Maybe
Especially if you can find tomatoes on sale. So definitely keep up with this recipe because this is something you can use a whole lot in the future. Anytime the kids want some spaghetti, you can keep a lot of this stuff on hand, especially the dried herbs. They last forever. Pepper and onion and a couple cans of tomatoes. You got sauce, and it's really knock your sauce off socks.
Yes.
Which means it's really good and it's really simple. So I'm going to turn the sauce part over to Sarah, and she's going to take off with the pasta and the sauce.
Okay, so we didn't necessarily put this on the list of ingredients. We're going to use an onion and we're going to use a pepper. This happens to be a red onion, this happens to be a poblano. That's just because that's what we had left over. Really honestly, sky's the limit on this. You could use yellow onion, white onion, you could use red pepper, yellow pepper, any kind of pepper you've got.
And you don't have to use pepper.
You don't have to. And another pepper that's really, really good is like a banana pepper, or back in Illinois, we used to get something called a gypsy pepper, which is kind of like a banana. It's kind of like a cross between a green pepper and a banana pepper. Phenomenal in sauce. So, you know, sky's kind of the limit on that. I'm going to go ahead and slice up a little bit of pepper and onion and get it down in my oil. Kind of keep an eye on that water for me, if you would.
It's boiling. You want me to drop you some pasta?
Well, let's do the oil and the salt.
Good thinking right there.
Yeah, because it's GF over here.
GF up in this joint. And then salt.
Yeah. So I'm just going to give this a little chop. I'll probably go back through once I get my onion chopped and kind of dice it up a little bit more. You don't necessarily want chunks. You want it more just to be a flavor profile in your sauce.
Sarah's having to talk louder this week too.
I know. I hope I'm talking talking loud enough. Last week I couldn't hear anything I said on that video. Maybe once or twice I heard something I said. So I'm going to try to project my voice this week. I was exhausted last week. That was part of it. You know, you have those days where you go to work, you have a rough day, you come home, you don't necessarily want to be cooking supper, but that's what you do anyway, because truly that's what you enjoy to do, and that's what's best for your family, all that jazz. That was last week. This week I have more energy.
This week you're back.
This week I'm back.
You're back. Let me get a thing here, the camera, and I'm going to show this up close. Fighting, stinking, what are those things I'm fighting, honey?
Oh, we've got
Fruit flies by the thousands. Gosh, I'm fighting a daily battle.
Yeah.
Also, too, I'll just say this is Sarah's sauce, but if you want vegetables in your sauce,
Yep.
cut these however small you want. If you don't like a chunky sauce, you could even put them in a food processor.
I've put them in a food processor. I've even, like, when my kids were little and I was kind of battling, like, those food jags, and they weren't necessarily wanting to eat their carrots, and celery is a bad word in this house, but I would add celery, you know. I would zap it in a food processor and, you know, just kind of like hide it in the sauce just to add more nutrition, so it was more than just tomatoes. It really honestly makes a great sauce, you know. It gives it a great depth of flavor and profile, etc. So I'm just kind of going through and chopping this up a little bit.
I'll show in your bracelet.
Oh, yeah. Gabe was so sweet. He went on vacation, I think 2 years ago, went on vacation with his dad and brought that back for me, and I love it. I had bought one that was kind of like it a couple years before that, and he had remembered. You gotta love when your little guys are thoughtful like that. So, alright, that's probably as good as I'm gonna do it. I mean, I could make it slightly finer, but it's just whatever you want.
So all you've got is peppers and onions.
Peppers and onions. I'm not going to do my garlic yet. I'm going to give my pan.
I went ahead and turned it on for
thank
you.
you. Look at you.
Look at this. This is the official, while she's doing, I don't know if you can see this or not. That's the official Keeton in the kitchen cutting board. It even says so right on the side. All right, so you've got
a good dousing of olive oil in my saucepan.
Let me bring this over because you're going to drop that, so we want to see this action. There's her pasta. And then oil in the pan. You heard that, so you know that that pan's really good and hot.
So we're going to cook those veggies down just a wee bit.
Like I said, keep this in mind, folks, because this is your standard red sauce that's super easy to make, and you can... Whoa. That's a nice flip.
I know.
And then you can use that anytime you're making pasta sauce. There's all of our other goodies. Now, Sarah and I talk constantly, too. I know that sometimes I hold this too close so that you can't hear it because that thing's sizzling. We talk constantly about make these recipes even if you don't have anything. One of the things. Not anything. If you didn't have anything, you couldn't make it.
That'd be kind of tough. But
one of the things that I put in there was white wine. Well, we didn't have any white wine.
Yeah, we went to the wine cabinet.
Yeah,
no
so what we had was red wine. So tonight's sauce gets red wine. Don't worry if you don't have red wine. If you don't have either one of them, okay, then don't use it.
So what I
Still
have
gonna be
here
good.
is I've got sage from our garden, oregano from the garden, thyme from the garden. And I'm just going to kind of give this a rough chop. It's a lot of herbs, but when you're using fresh herbs, it's you got to use a little bit more.
The more the better when it comes to herbs in your sauces.
Yeah.
Just put in a bunch of. You're never going to over herb it.
Don't be scared. So I don't have.
When is the last time you over herbed a sauce?
Never.
There you go. You had it. Mm-hmm. She's a cutie.
Thank you, babe. So I don't have any fresh basil. Don't ask me how that happened this year. So I'm using dried basil instead. So I know we gave out some measurements for dried on the list of ingredients.
Oh, wait,
so
you're back over here. I
sorry.
thought you were coming here.
I'm just going to go ahead and prep my
So if you're doing this at home, prep along. Go ahead and chop your herbs.
Yep, chop your herbs and get your garlic ready. I don't like to add my garlic until I add my tomatoes, kind of my wet ingredients to the sauce. Because I just don't, if you burn your garlic, if you overcook your garlic, like over saute it, it just loses its flavor. So it's best to make it so it doesn't get burnt. So we're just kind of chopping along there.
Little shout out to Ryan Shirley this week. He made
right.
the fried yellow squash that we did last week. That
really
looked
cool.
phenomenal.
It did.
Spot on, Ryan. Good work.
I know, I saw that. I was down camping with my kids and my bestie Jody, and I saw that on Facebook.
Yep, that's really good.
All right. I'm gonna let that go just a little bit longer. Let that cook down.
You can see they're kind of cooking down some. The bottom of that pan was pretty full at one time. They've cooked down a little. You might want to stir your pasta.
Okay, let's see what we got there. Ooh,
Look at the little Italian. Wait, show that. That came from Italy.
Oh, we're sticking together a wee bit.
Oh yeah, we're sticking together. That's why you got to stir it. Break it up.
We are sticking in a big way.
Mm-hmm.
Try to get that broken up a little bit.
You may need 2 spatulas for that.
It's starting to. That's why you got to put that oil in there, especially with that gluten-free. All right. So here we are here.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Good.
And we're just gonna. I mean, I think we said 1/4 of a cup.
Half a cup,
Half
I
a
thought, but
cup.
yeah, whatever. Wait. Give us a little.
Oh.
I got us a little glass out here. Okay, good.
Oh, there you go.
Wait, and here's one for you.
Oh,
I got
okay.
2 glasses out.
Thank you, baby.
If you're gonna cook with wine, always have a sip of wine here.
There you go.
And then, cheers.
Oh, cheers. Ooh.
Mmm,
That is good.
that is good.
And when you're cooking with wine, the rule of thumb is you don't want to cook with anything that you wouldn't drink.
Yeah, just by. I mean, here's the thing about wine. I'm no wine expert. We drink our share of wine. I'm no wine expert. A really good bottle of wine can be had for $12.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you're buying a $4 bottle of wine, you probably should spend the extra $8. It's not like it's super expensive.
No.
So just buy a halfway decent one.
I used to be really good friends with like a level 4 sommelier. She's someone I've kind of lost contact with over the years, but she always said that a $20 bottle of wine, when you're buying a red, there's no real difference between a 20 and a 50. Now, over the price of 50, red wine gets substantially better. But if you're going to spend somewhere around $20, don't spend anything more than that unless you're going to spend more than 50. Now, on the other hand, she said if you're going to buy a bottle of white wine, there's a huge difference between a $20 and a $50 bottle of wine. So that was her advice.
Peppers, onions, cook down a little bit in a little oil, and wine. That's what's in there right now.
That's where we're at.
Got our pasta going here.
We're going to go ahead and add
1 can of tomatoes.
our tomatoes. And
These
you want to go ahead and turn your heat down at this point, or you're going to get the tomato sauce shower here in a minute.
All over your stove.
Yeah. And your shirt. This happens
Yep.
to be a new one, so.
Yeah, and you can use whole tomatoes.
You can.
You just squash them in your hands. Take each one out of the can and squash them in your hands. You can use garden fresh tomatoes if you've got a ton of tomatoes.
Absolutely.
Cook your tomatoes. Wow. Did you just do what you said you weren't going to do?
Nope. Somehow I missed my shirt.
If you're going to use garden fresh tomatoes, make sure you peel those tomatoes first, which is dunk them in the boiling water ahead of time. So you got all your herbs.
I got all my fresh herbs here. So that's sage, thyme, oregano. Dump. I'll come over here with the dried basil. I'm going to go with about that much. I always crush
Couple
mine.
teaspoons, yeah.
That just helps release the oils and dried herbs.
And folks, that's several. I keep saying folks. That makes me sound old.
Folks.
Ladies and gentlemen, how about that?
Ladies and gentlemen.
That's about 4 teaspoons of herbs, maybe 5. Don't be afraid to put a lot of herbs in. Herbs add the flavor.
So now, because I have all my wet ingredients in, I'm going to go ahead and put my garlic down in there. And because my baby likes it spicy.
Oh, is she going to make this into a diavolo? Oh my gosh. Wow.
That's some beautiful.
That is. By the way, we don't have any affiliation with this company at all. But I bought these. It's Flatiron Pepper Company. If you've just been using generic red pepper flakes, trust me on this. Buy a couple of cans of Flatiron Pepper Company. They are phenomenal.
We're going to go with a teaspoon of salt.
Okay.
And then...
What about the other key ingredient in sauce?
The key ingredient is a bit of sugar.
A bit of sugar. That's exactly right. You got to cut that acidity. Boy, look at that sauce. You could buy that in a jar. We just made it in 14 minutes.
You're not looking to sweeten your sauce. You're simply looking to take the bite off of the acidity from the tomatoes. That's all it is.
That's gorgeous.
It is gorgeous, isn't it? Now, I will say this much. We're going to be eating this sauce here however long it takes us to make the rest of this stuff. The thing about sauce, you want to bring it to a boil, and then you want to take it back down. You want to simmer it, usually with a lid vented, okay? And that's just so your stovetop doesn't look like a murder scene. But the longer you let this sit, the better. Mm-hmm. The longer you let all these flavors kind of meld together, the better. So you can have a fresh sauce, which is basically what we're going to have tonight. But if if you let it cook longer, it's just going to, melt all those flavors together. It's the same way like when you eat your sauce the next day. Like everything's had a chance to kind of marry a little bit.
Again, this could all be right straight out of your garden so far.
Oh yeah, tomatoes, pepper, onion.
Yeah, garlic might be hard, but
garlic's a little hard this time of year. You harvest your garlic in the
you plant it in the fall and then harvest it in the spring.
Which we're gonna do this year, baby. We're doing it.
Yes, we are.
Mm-hmm. We're gonna do that. That's on our list of to-dos. All right. Go ahead and just kind of vent that like that.
Okay. You want to do a little rundown real quick before I move this over here of what you put in your sauce.
Okay.
What's in that?
In my sauce is onions, peppers, garlic, red wine, olive oil, let's see, thyme, oregano, basil, sage. Did I say red pepper already?
No.
Red pepper.
Salt, pepper, sugar.
Salt, pepper, sugar. Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
And it's going to be incredible. I already know that.
Oh yeah, it's going to be delicious.
How's your pasta doing?
It's probably done. If I was a betting woman. Yep.
Okay, so you're going to dump that. Let me get out of the way. No steam burn here.
Yeah.
I'll come over here and I'll film it from a distance. So our sauce is going.
Oh yeah. And our sauce actually needs to be turned down because you don't really want to boil it. You want to simmer it. And I can hear it. I can hear it going. And because this is a gluten-free pasta, I feel like I'm a broken record. I'll go ahead and spray this with cold water because gluten-free pasta is notorious for just continuing to cook and turn into mush. So cold water is going to stop that cooking process. If this was normal, glutinous pasta, this isn't really necessary. Besides the fact, typically what I will do, and I'll go ahead and do that now, why not? Typically when I'm cooking pasta, what I'll do, and this is being from St. Louis, and St. Louis having a huge Italian population, known lots and lots of people that had Italian roots from the St. Louis area, they always take their pasta when they're doing a red sauce. They put it back in the pan, okay? They take some of their sauce.
I'm coming over.
And they'll just do one of these numbers, and it's not very much. Maybe 1/4 of a cup. And while that pasta is still hot, they'll stir that sauce in so the pasta absorbs the sauce.
Whoa, that's a nice little tip. You always get a little extra with Keeton's in the kitchen.
So that is mandatory in an Italian kitchen.
Look at this. Take a look at that.
And we'll just let this sucker keep doing its thing. It's gonna be happy.
I'm gonna bring this over here. Probably not the smoothest job bringing it over there, by the way. And I'm gonna set it down right there. And then I'm gonna work on, let me move this stuff out of my way.
Let me make sure we're good here.
I got this fancy little, oh man, seriously?
Technical difficulties?
I got this fancy little thing that I don't really know that much about. Oh, you know what? Ah.
You needed a pot, honey.
You have to have the pot on it. So what I have here is a tiny piece of plastic. But other than that, I have some hot Italian sausage. You can use mild Italian, you can use medium Italian. I don't think you can find medium. There's only like mild and hot. But whatever. If
you could mix the two and make a medium.
If you have the links, go ahead and take those out of the casings. Or just cut them into little chunks either way. I'm just breaking this into some smaller pieces. You can break this up with the spatula when you do it. We have our little meat breaker upper thingy somewhere. You can use that too. I kind of like to have a little bit of texture to this. A little bit of consistency and stuff. So I try not to break it up super, super fine. But so all I'm doing is getting, there's the meat breaker thingy. Set that down. I'll use that bad boy in a minute. So I'm just putting this meat in the skillet kind of all around, breaking off small pieces. Now that's already cooking. This little gadget is good for that. It gets stuff cooking really quick. This is 1 pound of hot Italian sausage. Now, you'll notice Sarah made a, so in your sauces, basically you have sort of a straight, just Italian style sauce like Pomodoro. And then you have an arrabbiata, you have diavolo, which are the spicier ones. Sarah kind of made a little bit of a diavolo, a little bit of a spicier. This is hot Italian sausage. The two are getting ready to make for a spicy little evening over here, which is going to be good.
Yeah.
So while that meat's cooking, I'm going to have a sip of this Pinot. I'm going to go ahead. Now, always cook your meat first. Your vegetables take less time. They continue to cook after you take them out. If you do those first, the whole time as they're sitting in your pan, they're sitting there continuing to cook while your meat's cooking. Do your meat first. I've got this handy dandy little butcher knife here from the old school days. This is an onion from our garden. Let me just set this right here for just a sec. So all I want to do, again, now we're back to personal preference here, the size of the pieces. Let me hold that for me a second. Got a little dirt on there. Won't hurt. Dirt don't hurt. But what I like to do is, I like to leave these in pretty good sized pieces. They're not gonna have to cook very long anyway, so it doesn't hurt to just roughly chop all of these vegetables. These are in maybe 1/2 inch pieces, something like that. Cut that onion in half, slice that into 1/2 inch pieces, turn it 90 degrees, slice that. So there's your onion. The sweet pepper. I probably won't, I don't know that I've got anything else to do with it, but I might not use this whole thing. Here's this. Yeah. Same thing, 1/2 inch pieces, cut it, turn it. Now that's where we talk about a lot of times too, Sarah and I both do, about cutting. Peppers will hurt you. Out of everything that you cut, peppers run the biggest risk of hurting you because they're hard to cut and they're slick on one side. So if you're concerned with cutting these, always cut them from the inside out. That way your knife grabs onto it better and you're not cutting against the slick side. You can take these ribs out. Doesn't make two hell beans difference. But you'll notice when I cut this, that if I cut it from the inside, I don't have to worry about my knife slipping off and cutting it. So I cut that into strips, turn them 90 degrees, come across them. Simple enough. It's basically the same way when you get to these super prolific garden style vegetables. These aren't that big, so I'm not overly concerned with peeling these. If you have a really big zucchini or a really big yellow squash, and we do, we've got some, you probably want to go ahead and take the peels off of this first. It's just going to make it go a whole lot easier on you when you eat it, because those peels can get really tough. Same thing, I'm cutting that into cubes. Wabooshka! Oh! You come at me? You get it. I wanted to cut the end off that. The stupid knife didn't cut all the way through it. Oh, so much for the zucchini, Britt. Zucchini won my knife nothing. Oh, that stunk. It was going to be really dramatic if I hacked the whole end off that and it went flopping.
That would have been really wild. I mean, like, you need a gun, like, what's that knife?
Hensie. I need a different knife if I'm going to pull that off. That was getting ready to be the best piece of live television ever. Didn't really work out.
Oh, God.
I just had a close-up of your face. Right there. You were like, oh my God. He just cut my peppers.
Oh, goodness.
The funner you make the kitchen, the better it is. The more you want to cook, if you just have fun with it, make it the most that you can. Make it the best that you can, not the most that you can. Take one of these down there if you would and just kind of show them up close. It's kind of the size I'm going for. I'm just cutting each one of these into slices, cutting that acrossways into slices, and then cutting them into chunks. So I've got onion, sweet pepper, zucchini, and yellow squash. Now my meat is just about already done. We went ahead and put our meat on. It's just about, oh man, yeah. What's he doing?
He's out of here. He doesn't like the frying pan.
What's he doing in the show?
Oh, he was making a cameo.
Yeah. So that's basically done. We can be a plate because I'm going to have to finish this out.
Okay.
So the meat's almost done. As soon as that piece right there is done, we're going to probably dump that.
You don't really need to drain that, do you?
No, and that's the thing. When you're doing this, you don't have to drain this because the oil that's in there off of that is going to be used to cook these veggies. So, pop your garlic, peel you a couple cloves of garlic. Typically, like the herbs, the more garlic, the better. If you got 3, use 3. Nothing to stop you. There's no law against how much garlic you can use.
More the better.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Oh, stuff is flying. Which is pretty typical for this show, honestly. The way we cook, stuff goes flying a lot. So I've got my garlic here. I'm just going to roughly chop it. I do kind of try and take these ends off. They can be a little tough. Okay, so our meat, if you want to bring that over in just a sec, we'll show that. Our meat's basically done. Just roughly chopping this garlic. I mean, I don't know that anybody needs to see meat cooked, but just flick garlic everywhere. Dude. There's garlic everywhere. Like big old pieces of it. Okay, so here's our meat. Go ahead and take that out of your pan. Now, if you got that fancy little thing there, it's going to stop cooking when you do that. I know. Then, if you didn't mix in your garlic, you want to kind of save it for just a minute. That's just about a tablespoonful of oil. I got my vegetables here. The skillet's not going to be quite big enough probably for all this, but we're going to make it happen anyway. And what I really want to do is save the garlic as much as possible because the flavor will cook right out of that. Now the nice thing about this is all pretty mild. The peppers and the onions have some oomph to them. Yellow squash and zucchini, not so much. So having some extra garlic's a good thing, simply because there's not a ton of flavor in this anyway, other than that. So I'm going to get a little salt and a little pepper. This is kind of to taste. That's half a teaspoon. A good idea, and here's a little tip for you too. We're always full of tips and tactics here. When you go to a restaurant, always take that salt shaker and dump it into your hand at first. I've ruined many a meal by dumping that into my thing and realizing that it pours out super fast. If you do that at home, it sort of carries over to when you go out. So every time, hit that first shake or two in your hand, then you know how fast it's coming out, and then put it over the top. So, all we've got in here is our vegetables. Let me... And again, I didn't clean out the skillet. All I did was put the veggies straight in there after I took the meat out. The meat's done. These vegetables are only going to take a couple of minutes. We don't want these soft. We don't want this to be Primavera mush. We want these still to have a lot of texture. That way it'll hold in some of the flavor that they inherently have. There went some pepper flying. Oh, there went some onion flying. I told you the skillet wasn't quite big enough.
We need a bigger skillet, maybe.
We need a bigger skillet. Let me get this. We're going to go ahead and put our pasta in our bowl. While I was down there picking up veggies, I found a bobby pin.
Sounds about right.
You never know. Around here. This is basically just sauteing up. This is an extremely healthy meal, too.
Oh, yeah.
We kind of talk about healthy every now and then. If you left out the sausage, if you want to do the vegetarian version of this, which we've done before, leave out the sausage.
You can always make yourself a big batch of zucchini squash, too. Instead of noodles.
Yep. Yeah, you could chop those up into the...
Which, by the way, we're going to have to start thinking of all kinds of recipes for spaghetti squash, because we have roughly about 35 of them in the garden.
That's good. Sarah does a buffalo chicken spaghetti squash.
Good.
If you could convince her to make that, it'd be worth your while. It
Yeah, we'll definitely do
really
that
good.
one. That one is good.
I like it with pesto chicken in it. But that's just me. I'm just an old boy from the hills of Kentucky.
Alfredo. Oh, the other really good one is where we make it like a pizza.
Yeah, that is really good.
So like your
with like pepperoni.
yeah, like where your spaghetti squash. Like I don't even take it out of the skin. I just loosen it with a fork, and then you just make pizza on top. Like it's your crust. It turns into a pizza boat. It's so good.
So I've cooked this for about 2.5 minutes, maybe 3. I'm going to go ahead and add the garlic, some of which I picked up off the floor. Honey, we tell the truth on this
Yes,
show.
we do.
So I got the garlic in there. The garlic, you'll know, you start to smell it.
Just let it go.
Ow, that one landed on my foot. That one not.
He's a big man with a little pan.
Yeah, exactly right. You really need a little bit bigger skillet for this.
Well, we needed to bring in our great big skillet for camping.
Okay, so I gave this about 60 seconds. I can smell the garlic. It's really smelling good. I'm going to go ahead and add back this meat right over the top. I'm going to try not to lose any of the meat because I'd rather lose the vegetables than I would the meat.
I heard you.
Yeah, I know, and then I flopped the big old piece over on the floor. Sometimes you're the Primavera and sometimes you're the cook. Incorporate the meat back down in your vegetables. Okay, you got your pasta on first. Woo, that was good. I'm fighting it in a skillet tonight.
Yeah, it's too small.
Woo, it's a battle. It's like a battle royale if you ever watch wrestling. Okay, so all told, this has been in here about 4.5, 5 minutes. Now the meat's back in, the vegetables are in. The vegetables are getting nice and tender crisp. They've cooked down a little bit. I've got 1 sip of wine left.
Perfect. Perfecto.
That's how you know how long to cook it. 'Cause when you start with this much
That might
wine,
not work for everyone.
when you start with this much wine and you run out, so you know it's done.
So you've got your pasta that we went ahead and put about 1/4 of a cup to 1/3 of a cup of sauce back into. Let the pasta start to soak up the flavor from the sauce. If you're joining late, you wonder why our sauce looks a hint of something. That's why.
Whew, this is gonna be good. Okay, so we've got these vegetables. Let's bring the camera over here to show how beautiful this is. This is absolutely a beautiful dish. It's got the yellow, it's got the green, it's got the red, it's got the white, it's got everything in it. Look at that dish.
Oh, yeah.
That is incredible. I'm gonna try and pour it in slow motion.
With music. Okay, little skillet thingy. Okay, so you pour your vegetables and your meat right over the top. Like so. Let's unplug this thing so it stops beeping. You want me to do your sauce? Yeah.
Okay, your sauce turns off. This is what it looks like when you take it off. Can you see down in there?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Okay, you give that a good stir to incorporate it.
Jill said stripper music.
That's all that came to mind. What the heck? Oh, I don't know where my mind's at. So you pour this sauce right over the top. Try and get all that. You spent the time cooking it. Don't leave it in the pan. Ow! Ow! Ah! Ow! Hot sauce on the foot, dude. Golly. We really cook on this show.
Goodness.
Okay, spread your sauce around. You'll notice that's kind of thick. Perfect. Then you'll come back in here with some of your Parmesan. You got a blister on your foot now. It's best to do the Parmesan after the blister. If you're doing this at home, just keep doing it until your Parmesan just completely runs out. That's how you know. And then you get a fork or two. And you set the thing down. And then honey baby comes over. You mix in a little of that sauce with your vegetables. This is going to be boiling hot. I always make this mistake, but you know what? You have to do it for the show. Honey.
Oh, you
have
think?
to do it for TV.
That is off the charts, folks. We did that whole thing in 38 minutes, plus burned our tongue. You better blow that really good. It's off the chart. It's fantastic. Use up some of those garden veggies that you have. That's incredible. And then join us next week. We'll do something else that breaks the internet. We'll do something else probably with fresh garden veggies, and it'll be fantastic too. I know last week I tried to kiss you and you did the Melania Trump thing and walked away.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry about that.